I hated the way my laundry room looked, so I decided to give it a complete makeover. And I have big plans for this laundry, but there are two big problems. Problem number one is that I work full time, so working on this laundry turned into a several month project. The second problem is that I got a quote for custom cabinets for the laundry, and I got quoted $6,000, which was way out of my budget. So I decided to build the cabinets myself, even though I've never done that before. I mean, how hard could it be?
How do I get myself into this situation?
Time to butcher the cabinet. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany, and I like taking on projects that are out of my comfort zone, so join me while I transform this laundry or lose my mind trying. I have a problem. It doesn't fit.
You did it again?
It doesn't fit.
Our washer and dryer just broke, which is what triggered this project to start. Did that not like squeeze the water out of the clothes at all?
I don't know how washing machines work, but this doesn't seem right.
No freaking wonder the dryer doesn't dry our clothes.
I think we need a new washing machine.
We're going to order a new washer and dryer, and before it's time for them to get delivered, we have to get the laundry ready. I don't know if you can tell in this video, but I'm very short and I can't reach the dryer buttons at the top, so I decided to get the Samsung Bespoke series that allows you to control the washer and dryer from the bottom. They gave us a delivery time of 3 weeks for the washer and dryer, which meant that it was time to get to work.
Okay, so now that I took everything out, the plan is to change the floors. So I'm going to do the same floors that I did in the living room because I'm pretty much doing that same floor in this whole area. Before I can do the floors in the laundry, I have to take out some of the trim because it's gotten ruined with the years and with the cats. The trim that this house came with was MDF, which if any moisture touches it, it just goes like... You know, so it's I have to take it out and put in new ones, but that'll get done along with the floors. And
I am really bad at recording videos of myself, so I never really finished this sentence. So we're just gonna move on. And this is when I found out the first problem. I didn't know how bad it was yet. So I started dealing with the water damage and treating it, but then I realized that what caused the water damage was the door. It was rusted out and it had a hole where it had been leaking. And changing this door was not part of the plan and it was not in my budget, so I had to try to find someone to help me change it. But that's future Tiffany's problem. In the meantime, I'm going to continue.
Oops.
So there are these strips in the walls covering the seams of the drywall, and I wanted to take them out just so I can patch them and make them smooth.
Kitty, I need to go through there.
Don't forget to shut the water off, because if you disconnect the washer without the water off, you will have a very interesting evening. She's beauty and she's grace. She's gonna fall right on her face.
It's heavy. I think it has like water in it. Like there's no water, like visible water there, but like the washers, I think they hold a little bit of water.
Move to the right, move to the left, move to the right, move to the left.
And here it is, a blank canvas. This room looks so much bigger now.
She broke everything. Everything!
So now I'm gonna remove the rest of the baseboard. You can see this has a little bit of water damage. It might or might not have flooded this laundry room before. probably should replace that. The good thing is that it's just in the surface and it's all dry. So like all of it is dry because when we did have the flood in the laundry, we cleaned it right away and like we dried out everything. We had dehumidifiers, like I mean we like tackled it like right away. So everything dried up, but I guess probably moisture got trapped in there for a little bit and looks like it's growing mold a little bit, but it's a very small spot. It doesn't look like it's spreading out. I'm just gonna cut out this part of the wall and just replace this part of the drywall just to be safe. Checking for wires. Anytime you do any work behind the walls, like check for wires, water lines, because again, you can have a very interesting evening if you hit one of those.
And just like I did with the door, I cleaned and treated the area.
So I luckily found some leftover drywall from my last project, which was a bathroom renovation. So I had enough pieces to do this because it's not a big piece. I am using dry deck spackling. This one goes on pink and it dries white, so you know that you can sand it and paint it and all that.
It's so pink. I've seen videos of other people doing drywall and they make it look so easy, but me on the other hand, I'm just fighting with this blob here and I'm just trying my best. It does end up looking good, I will say that.
I was gonna lay the new floor on top of this since, you know, it was in good condition, but because I found water damage, I am a little bit paranoid, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it out just to make sure there's no water damage trapped underneath this floor. Looks like we're good. Just like a slight water stain, but that's it.
Luckily, everything was dry in that area, and for the next few days, I did multiple coats of drywall mud, and I had a fan dry in the area that did have water damage. After I got done with the drywall, the next step was to paint the walls. The color I picked was Drift of Mist, which is a very light gray. Then after painting, I started prepping the floor by laying underlayment.
You gotta be kidding me. It's staying over here.
But I had to stop the floor project because my dad came to the rescue to help me change the light fixture and the door situation.
Okay, how do you change the white?
I don't know.
It looks yellow. I want it white.
You gotta do it before you put it on.
Oh.
Okay, turn it on.
Maybe that one. Okay, keep going. No. Hell no.
Hell no.
No. It's too yellow.
3, right there.
Okay. That one looks good.
Yeah?
Yeah? Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm not taking it off again. Ta-da! Very good. Đấy. What? We make it happen.
I'm using vinyl planks for the floor, which is an easy DIY floor to install and is waterproof, which is perfect because this is a laundry room. If you want to know more about how to install vinyl plank flooring, I did a full video how to install it when I did my living room. I'll have it linked in the description below.
You found a stick? That's a big stick. That's a big stick. You want me to throw it, don't you? You want me to throw it. Good girl. Good girl. You're such a good girl. Oh my goodness.
After I got done with all the floors, it was time to do the door jambs and all the finishing trim.
Where's the tape measure? Where did I put it? I just had it. The amount of time I spend looking for tools is unreal. Like, it's part of the reason I can't get anything done. So I have a wet napkin. Blah, 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 blah.
You have a wet what?
Okay.
Do you have a wet willy?
No. I I have a wet napkin, and I find it easier, like, if you use a wet finger, that it, like, smooths the caulking easier.
And you want to have a wet napkin and not lick the finger because... Don't.
What? Are you helping?
Oh God. Are you okay?
And now that we're finally done, we got the washer and dryer delivered.
Oh my goodness. They're huge. They're so nice.
And here we have video evidence that Tiffany also does the laundry.
Oh, it said hello. And it works. They're so pretty. Like, I never think of a washer and dryer being pretty. We've always have like the shitty ones, like I'm excited. I hope they can stack them when they come back.
After the washer and dryer got stacked, I was ready for cabinets, and I got a quote for custom-made cabinets, and they came out to $6,000, which is way out of my budget. So I decided to build them myself, even though I've never done this before. There was a lot of planning before I started this project because I was not sure that I could do this. So first I made a drawing of what I wanted the laundry to look like. After taking measurements and deciding what size the cabinets will be, I then drew the cabinets with measurements so I could create a cut list and figure out how much wood I would need. You might not have to draw everything like this, but I'm a very visual person, so this helped me a lot. After all the planning, Tony and I went to Lowe's to get birch plywood.
Let's put the edge.
Sorry. I had one of the associates cut the plywood into smaller pieces so it would be easy for me to carry. They're kind of heavy. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is do a quick sand with 220. I think it's easier if I sand it all as one piece. That way I don't have to worry about sanding little pieces later. This is going to be one of the panels that are going on the side of the washer and dryers. My plan is to stain it. So I picked one of the prettiest sides of the wood. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out part of the panel, leaving like a little lip on the top and the bottom for support because I want the panel to reach the wall, but only at the top and the bottom. I just want to make sure, these panels are so heavy that I want to make sure that it is fully supported, but I can't do the whole panel against the wall because I can't block the washer and dryer connection. I think this is going to work. Anyways, sanding. So I started the first cut with a jigsaw so I could curve around the lip that I'm leaving on the panel. I then used a circular saw to cut through the panel using a Craig straight edge to make sure that the cut was perfectly straight. So now I'm getting ready to cut, and after I cut this is the point of no return. So I have it laid out to where it has to be cut perfectly. If I miscut something, I will probably have to buy another sheet of plywood. Wish me luck, and I hope I don't miscut anything. Measure twice, cut once, right? When I cut that piece, I don't know if it's because where the grain is going, but you see how badly it chipped? It didn't show on the other side, so maybe I should have cut this upside. This is the top side or the visible side. I should have cut this upside down. I didn't know it was gonna chip that bad. This part is actually not going to be that visible, so it's not that big of a deal, but I'm not too happy with those chips. So I have to be able to repeat this cut. This part right here is the top and the bottom of the little cabinet that's going on top of the washer and dryer. Because they're both gonna go in between the panels, it's very important that they're the same exact size. I think what I'm gonna do here, I already decided actually. I'm gonna use my first cut as a template, and I'm gonna draw a line. That way I know that it is exactly that size. I hope I can set up this saw blade exactly where it needs to be, so these two pieces end up being the same size. We'll see. I also added blue tape to help avoid the chipping that happened on the last piece. Okay. The chipping's not that bad. Now the moment of truth. Let's see if this is the same size. So remember that 1/16 of an inch difference is bothering me. Like, I went to sleep thinking about that 1/16 of a difference. So I went and measured it and saw, okay, how bad can it be? That's just enough to piss me off. So I'm gonna fix it. So 1/16 of an inch is like really tiny. I'm going to cut it through the table saw, but I'm gonna use a sacrificial piece of wood here as the fence because I do not want the fence that close to the blade. So he's kind of sad, you see, because he knows he's about to be sacrificed. I think like the thickness of the blade is even thicker than what I need to cut. So that's why I'm putting a little piece of wood here, because it's just gonna be really close. It's like I'm just like literally like cutting a hair out of the wood. So I hope that works, and I hope I don't cut it deeper than I need to, because then that means I have to cut the other piece too. Okay, let's hope that works. Since the blade was too thick, I cut into the wood fence, leaving just enough of the blade out to shave a hair out of the wood. I know, Misty, you wanna play, but I'm working. Give me a minute. Okay, let's try that. Can I help you? It worked? So the way I'm attaching the top and bottom to the tall panel is using pocket screws. Oops. And I'm making the pocket holes with a Craig Jig 720 Pro. So I'm gonna start putting it together to hold it in place while I do the pocket screws. I'm gonna use this little L-shaped clamps, which should help me hold it together without me having to hold it in place. They're pretty cool, so they have become pretty useful, especially for this type of project when you're trying to like attach two pieces of wood together like this. All right. Ouch. I need a tape measure. Ouch. Okay. So I have a problem. I spent so much time making sure that this board that I just put on was straight level, and at the right height. Spent a lot of time checking that. But I didn't make sure that it was flush in the front. And this is like the front of the panel, so it has to be flush. So the first thing you're gonna see is where the doors are gonna be against. So now I gotta take it apart, re-drill the pocket holes, and do it again. And I gotta take it apart before the glue dries, because otherwise it'll probably make a mess. And I don't wanna ruin this board. I'm pretty upset at myself because I knew that I had to make sure that it was flush, and I forgot. I made sure of everything else, but I forgot about this one. So I cut some spacers that are the same size of this panel, which is 27.5 inches, to put at the bottom as support. So when I put this panel on top of here, do the pocket holes. Wait, do I have to do that? Or can I? Now I'm thinking, like, why couldn't I do it? Maybe I don't have to do that. No, I still have to do that because it's gonna... The bottom doesn't have any support like up here, so I just cut these to use as support in the meantime. Not sure how I'm gonna do this. That's not holding on. So by putting too much pressure on this, when put it upside down, it made this wobbly. So those screws are not really holding up the support on this. So I'm gonna have to support it a different way. So I'm not 100% sure what to do, but I think that I'm gonna use that piece as support, and I'm gonna put it inside of the cabinet piece, so it's not really gonna be visible unless you open the cabinet. Then I'm gonna screw it straight onto the panel from this side, and I'm gonna do the same on the other side when I put it together, hopefully without falling apart this time. But these screws are not holding up at all. Like, it is wobbly. When I first put it on, it did seem to be steady, but I must have, when it dropped, it just must have lost all support. I think this is gonna work. So I cut this a little bit shorter than the first piece I showed you because of the hinges. So I gotta do this keeping in mind the hinges, and it should be fine. It's kind of hard to show you because this is in the way, but I did test that the hinges will be in the right place. So this is about 1.5 inches. I also pre-drill all the holes. And then I'm just going to screw it that way so it attaches to this board. And then I'm also going to screw it this way so it attaches to this board. And I'm keeping in mind the size of the screws that I'm using to make sure that the screw doesn't go all the way through the other side where it's visible. I'm going to try this again. I still can't attach it like this because the front is facing down, and I really need to make sure that the front is aligned perfectly, so that's why I did it sideways the first time. So I still need to do it sideways, but I'm gonna try to secure it this time before I turn it. This piece is temporary. It's just so I can move this around without the bottom just going like, you know. So my camera died, and while my camera was charging, I built support in the back, and this is temporary support just to transport it because I have to move this from here to the inside of the house at some point, and also so it's not wobbly. I use screws in the back since they're not going to be visible. I have to do the same in the front somehow, but without screws. I think I'm going to do a piece of wood, and I'm just going to clamp it instead until we get it to where it needs to go. She is done. I'm really happy with how the cabinet turned out. It's exactly what I pictured, but I think I overcomplicated how I made it. That's just my lack of experience. But I got it done, and I think I could be more efficient next time because I learned a lot from this project. And now I'm ready to do the finishing touches, so before I get this cabinet inside the laundry, I have to put on edge banding, stain it, do a clear coat, and after it dries, I'll be ready to take it inside. It's edge banding time. So I got birch edge banding so that way it matches with the wood. I got 50 feet of it, which should be enough to finish this project. And before I start the staining process, I'm gonna be putting the edge banding on any edge that is visible. It should be fairly simple. All I'm gonna use is an ironing board, not a board, an iron, a little sanding block, and a utility knife. So I'm using painter's tape to help me hold it in process. So I'm gonna, well, it should help me. First, I'm gonna cut the amount that I need. What is going on? So I cut the length that I needed. I'm actually gonna start with one of these top piece right here instead of the long piece, because if I mess anything up, it will be in a part that is not as visible. I'm gonna be really honest with you, I've never done this before. No. Ouch. There's a tool specifically to remove the edge banding X's, and it works a lot better than the utility knife, but I didn't have it at this time. I ended up getting one later when I made the doors. And also when you do this, be very careful because the blade catches on the veneer very easily, and then this happens. So Tiffany, what are you doing? I'm glad you asked. I'm gonna stain it, and this is the best position for me to stain it because I can get all of it, you know, like inside, out, up, down, and then the top of it is not gonna be visible, so I have the top facing down. The only problem though, I don't think I can reach up there. So I haven't talked about the colors of the cabinet yet, but I'm going for a two-tone look. So the middle cabinet is going to be driftwood and the rest of the cabinets are going to be white. And here's what it should look like when I'm done. I wasn't gonna paint the inside of the cabinet here, but some drops of stain fell on it, and just to make it consistent, I decided to just go ahead and stain it. For the clear coat, I'm gonna use polyurethane. I want it to look like it has a factory finish, so I think the sprayer is the best way to make that happen, because if I do it with a brush, I'm afraid that it'll end up with brush strokes. So I'm gonna go ahead and spray it. The polyurethane, you wanna make sure that you mix it thoroughly. If I take this out, you see how it has chunks at the bottom? So you just wanna make sure you mix it really well. I am a little bit nervous about the polyurethane because it's a lot thicker than I expected. I thought it was going to be more watery, and the instructions specifically say do not thin. So I'm hoping that it has no problem going through the sprayer, because the sprayer sprays really, really thin. Maybe I should have done a little bit better research on what finish to use as a clear coat, but I've always liked polyurethane. How am I gonna pour this without making a mess? I'll be right back. Oh, where's the filter? Damn it. Where did the filter go? Before I start spraying, I want to do a couple tests because I want to make sure that the consistency is the correct one. I don't want to spray it too thick because then it'll start dripping, and then I don't want to spray too little because it just doesn't cover it. So I'm going to test it on some cardboard until I make sure that the consistency is right. I adjusted it as much as I could, and I think it's good. I'm just worried about dripping mostly. So like, see this part over here, how it's like really thick? I don't want that. I think I got it. I'm gonna start spraying the inside of the cabinet since that's the less visible part. That way I can kind of get used to spraying. And just to double check and make sure that the consistency is correct. Oh, come on, really? Oh, buddy, come on. You know how I stained this using towels? Well, they're supposed to be lint-free, but they're not because they left it all over the cabinet, and they're barely noticeable. But as soon as I put in the clear coat, they're all over the place, like all over. Okay, I know that this seems ridiculous. I am lint rolling my cabinet, but I think it's working. Now let me tell you what I went through with the polyurethane. So I sprayed a total of 2 coats, but the layers were very thin, and I think I should have used an airless sprayer, or maybe it was user error on my part with the current sprayer, but I did 2 coats and sanded in between with 400 grit so that it was very smooth. And the last coat I did was with a wipe-on polyurethane, and that evened out the finish and it was very smooth. So I was going for a nice factory finish, but instead I ended up with a nice hairy finish. It's gonna be a new trend, guys. Just watch for it. It's gonna fit sideways.
Yep, go. This is working. This is working well. We should have opened the door first.
You got it?
Here, like,
What do you need?
I need to adjust my grip. Hold on.
Or do you need to rest?
Open the door.
Don't move. Okay. Wait. The clamp is a problem. The clamp is a problem. I need you to try to straighten it this way.
Okay.
And try to set it down. Okay. Wait, just a little bit more. Okay. All right, just leave it down here.
Are we setting it up or are we setting it up?
Set it down.
Okay.
Oh, holy shit. All right.
Thought you said don't slide it.
How are we gonna stand this shit up?
Oh no.
We're gonna go this way. We're gonna rotate it, and I'm gonna try to lift this sideways.
You know it's gonna still be the same amount of tall, right?
No, what's hitting is this right here.
Alright. Sorry. It's not funny, but it's very funny. Okay.
And this is the moment where I start contemplating my life choices and debating whether or not this whole project was really worth it. But after getting myself together, we decided to get some help.
This is my brother Cody, and he's going to help us move the cabinet. He doesn't know how big the cabinet is, but he already agreed, so he's trapped.
This time we're going directly into the laundry, and since we'll be going in with the cabinet at an angle, I'm hoping that it gives it enough room to stand up.
What's the plan here?
What would you consider this situation?
You know, considering everything that's going on, I'd say it's about around, not good.
Time to butcher the cabinet.
How do I get myself into this situation?
Go up. Wait, it is still not clearing. To build this cabinet, I should have built a box, attach a panel to each side of the box. But when I designed this, I was trying to save on materials, and I really didn't want to build a box, and I thought this would work with no problem. But obviously it didn't, and here I am cutting off about 1.5 inches of the bottom of the cabinets and being super careful because these cuts have to be perfect on both sides, otherwise the cabinet will end up being wobbly. But you live and you learn. My ceilings are 96 inches tall, and I made the cabinet 93 inches tall, thinking that 3 inches would have been enough to clear when I tilted it, but because of how wide I made the cabinet, it didn't work. But I found a video that helped me figure out how short the cabinet had to be to clear the ceiling. I'll link the video in the description below so that hopefully you'll never run into this problem.
That's as far as it's going.
Okay.
I think if we can just
Yeah.
push it.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, we did it! Like a glove.
So I cut some longer pieces and then shorter pieces to brace the cabinet to the wall. So I'm gonna do the long pieces against the wall, like have it in there, and then screw everything together. And I hope that that secures the cabinet enough. Shit, sorry. This tripod is ready to go to heaven. It's pretty steady in there. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The next step is to make the doors, which I will be making out of the same plywood material, but one of the challenges is that the edges are not finished, so they will end up looking like this. But there's a way to fix that. And the second challenge is that I've never done this before. So the shaker door is made out of 5 pieces. The frame, which is made out of 2 rails, 2 stiles, and the center panel. Before cutting any material, I had to figure out the exact size of each piece. And since I'm making the doors out of the same materials that I made the cabinets, I still have my leftover materials. And I won't really bore you with the math because this project can look very different depending on your space. To make the frame, I took some of the leftover 3/4 inch plywood I had from the cabinet and I cut it into long strips. 2.5, 2.5. Perfect. The width of the frame on a shaker door can be 2 to 3 inches, so I decided to go right in the middle and do 2.5 inches. And now I'm just gonna chop them down to size. So one trick I like to use to cut multiple pieces of wood to be the same size is using a stop block. And another trick, if I'm cutting smaller pieces, I like to stack them on top of each other and just do one cut across, and that usually works pretty well. So remember when I mentioned that plywood has unfinished edges? Well, I was able to find birch edge banding online, and it's also the same banding that I used to finish the front of the cabinet when I was making it. What I just marked right here is where I'm gonna put the edge banding. Something I learned while doing the edge banding is that after you have it on, you can pass the iron at an angle without putting too much pressure, and this helps the edges glue on properly. When I was making the cabinet, it was the first time I worked with edge banding, and to cut it, I used a utility knife. But now, I think I'm gonna use the right tool this time, and I'm hoping that when I cut off the edges is a much cleaner look. So, let's see. Oh my god, that was so easy. Like, it came right off, but maybe it came up too much over here. Oh, no. You got to be freaking kidding me. Well, it's not perfect. You still have to be careful with that tool. It can take a chunk out. So I guess I'm gonna use this side, which, I really don't like this side. It's so much lighter than the rest. Oh, I really did not want to use this side. I don't want to recut it either, so I'm gonna have to use that side. Oh. You know when you're doing something and you're not really paying attention, like your mind is just somewhere else, you're just thinking or listening to music and you just... Damn it. Okay, I'm gonna start that over. Well, I wasn't paying attention and I went overboard with these pocket holes. So these pocket holes don't belong there. They don't go anywhere. I only needed to do these right here. And this was just a mistake. I drilled these way too close here, and I'm gonna be routing this area where the panel is gonna go, so I decided to just make a third one there. So that was another boo-boo. The next door should be better because I am learning from my mistakes, and that's what's important, that you learn from your mistakes. Okay, so after all that chaos, I went ahead and put the frame together using wood glue and pocket screws, and it actually came out pretty good. You saw me finish the inside of the frame with edge banding, and now I'm doing the same thing on the outside of the frame, which finishes off the door pretty nicely, and it doesn't even look like plywood anymore. Except for my boo-boos, that I'm now attempting to fix with CA glue and wood putty. I then moved on to the second door, which, by the way, it went a lot smoother than the first one. So to route the back of this, I'm gonna be using the router. Give me 1 second, sorry. I'm going to be routing the back of this so this can fit flush. And by the way, this is 1/4 inch plywood, same material, so it's birch plywood, so it will match. I got a whole 4x8 sheet and then I cut it down to manageable pieces. Made my little drawing with all the pieces that I needed to cut. Once I get to those, I'll cut it down to the exact measurements, which is what I'm about to do with this once I route the space on the back of the frame here. Oh, but first, before I do any of that, I'm gonna sand, because it's easier to sand the panel once I have it like this than it's going to be to sand it once it's in here. I did it. Look at it. It looks so good. So now I get to measure the size of the panel so I can cut it exactly to that square there so it can fit in that frame. 9.5 by almost 7. Look at what I just did. So I realized that 3/16 is not enough room to nail it in place, but I didn't have another router bit that would work, so I was just very careful with the rest of it. I filled up the pocket holes using some pre-made pocket holes plugs. I love these, they're very efficient and easy to use. I added wood glue so they would stay in place, and a little bit of brute force. Now I'm filling all the gaps with wood filler, but I'm not sure that this is the best option. The problem with the wood filler is that it's such a different color compared to the wood. The good thing though is that this is the back of the door, so it's not going to be visible. And this is my continued attempt to fix the spots where I messed up earlier, especially where I put the wood filler because the color doesn't match, so I'm using a darker stain marker so that it blends in with the grain. I'm about to do some hinges. They are pretty smooth in the back. They're not really pretty to look at, but no one's gonna look at the back of my doors. So except for me when I open that cabinet once in a blue moon, because it's like all the way to the ceiling, so I can't even reach it. I'm just gonna put stuff there that we don't use that just needs to be stored. I know there's prettier ways to make the shaker door where it looks, you know, smooth in the back and the front, but this is my first time making doors, so I wanted to do like a simpler process, and then maybe next time I'll do a little bit more complicated steps, you know, just taking baby steps into this. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna drill the hinges, then I'm gonna test to make sure that they fit, and then I'm gonna stain it and finish them. I'm using a jig from Craig to make the hinges. They actually have a jig for almost anything in cabinet making, and I love their products. They have made this process so much easier, so I'll link the tools that I'm using in the description below. This jig is pretty cool. It comes with a bit to drill the hole for the hinges, and it helps with aligning and drilling the right depth. Apparently I mismeasured something because, as you can see, that is not in the right spot at all. So and we have a door. Look at that. So you probably noticed that the cabinet is super wobbly, but that is because when I tested the doors, I had not secured it to the wall yet. But don't worry, it won't be wobbly forever. Okay, I have doors. Look at that, I have doors. Yes. All right, let me adjust them so that way they're even, and then I'll finish them. Look at it. Look at it. It has doors. I did it. Okay, now for real, I'm gonna finish them. To finish the doors, I apply wood conditioner to avoid blotchiness from the stain, and then I use driftwood as the stain color. To seal it, I use wipe on poly, which is really easy to apply. You just wipe it on. It's different than how I finished the cabinet because I used the sprayer, but I didn't want to take out the sprayer just for a couple doors, and since they're not going to be heavily used, I think the wipe on poly will work really well. You're probably wondering what this piece is for. Well, there's a gap between the washer and dryer and the top of the cabinet. And I left that gap there on purpose because if we ever have to get a new washer and dryer and it happens to be taller, this piece is removable and we have the space for it. But this is to cover that gap so that way it doesn't, you know, look funny. And this is the back panel of the cabinet. I haven't forgotten about that. So I still have to cover it so that way it's not open, and when we put stuff inside the cabinet, it doesn't fall through. I am done. I'll be back in 2 hours to do it all over again. Even after all the mistakes, I'm really happy with how these doors came out. Although next time, I don't want to use plywood to make the doors. I'd rather use solid wood. But the laundry is nowhere near done. And now I get to make the wall cabinets that go next to the washer and dryer. There are different ways to build a wall cabinet, and I am gonna try to keep this as simple as possible for my sake because I have never built cabinets before, so I'm trying to keep this simple. Basically, I'm gonna build a box. So I have birch plywood here that I'm gonna cut out into the sizes that I need. Before I started this project, I drew up a sketch of what the laundry would look like, and then I drew each individual cabinet, and that helped me visualize each piece of wood that I would need and the sizes. From that, I created a cut list, and I now have written up all the sizes that I need to cut to put this cabinet together. So I'm gonna start. Plywood is made from thin layers of wood veneer, and when you run it through the saw, it can splinter really bad. So I like to use painter's tape to avoid ruining the edges. And I don't do it every time, it's just if I need the edges to be clean. You probably noticed that every piece is labeled with letters, and these letters matches the drawing that I did. It's kind of like the instructions you get when you buy furniture from the store. I basically created my own instructions because when you're cutting a bunch of wood, it all looks like random pieces of wood, and having them labeled makes it a lot easier to put it together later. Can I help you? So I'm done cutting the pieces for the wall cabinet that goes on the right side of the washer and dryer. Now I'm gonna cut the pieces for the wall cabinet that's gonna go on the left side. Hi, you gonna help me? Yeah? You gonna help me? I just did something really dumb. I cut my work piece. I cut it because I wasn't thinking. So yeah, that happened. I do have one more, so I might use that one instead. So I have everything cut, and now it's sanding time. Before I assemble it, I am drilling the holes for the shelf pins so that way the shelves are adjustable, and I'm using this Craig jig, and let me tell you, it's amazing. It's the first time I used it, and it's so easy to use. Like, you can perfectly line up the holes. I'm actually pretty glad I got this because I thought about freehanding it or like maybe measuring, but no, this makes it so much easier. So I'll have a link in the description below just in case you're interested. It's as easy as aligning it and just drilling through it. That's it. So I got a little distracted and I drilled too many holes up here. So I'm gonna patch them because it's gonna bother me that one side of the holes go all the way up here. Or I could just maybe drill the holes there and not deal with patching. But then it's not gonna match the other panel. No, I think I'm just gonna patch them. I think it's time for me to stop for tonight. Before putting the cabinet together, I used edge banding to finish all of the exposed edges. Ooh, the wind is blowing. One of the most helpful tools that I found for these projects were these L brackets that allow you to have two pieces of wood clamped together without needing a second person to hold it while you glue it and screw it in place. Oh, shit, I forgot to do the glue. I need a bigger work table. I forgot the glue. Ugh. Yes, doggy. I'm working. Yes, doggy. No. I'm working. I'm working. The depth of the cabinet is 15 inches compared to 12 inches. 12 inches is standard. Most wall cabinets are 12 inches deep. I made this one 15 inches deep because I'm short and I have like issues reaching stuff. And that is the beauty of making your own cabinets. You can make them whatever size you like. You don't have to make them standard size. You can make them whatever size works for you. So that is what I love about this project is I'm specifically making it so it works for my space, for what I want to do, and to show you that you can do it. I don't have a lot of experience doing this. I mean, I do have experience using power tools and doing a lot of things, but I've never built cabinets before, and I'm doing it little by little. I think, you know, I'm pretty sure it's gonna work. So I encourage you to do it. If it's something you haven't done before, just try it. I mean, why not? It's okay to make mistakes. Now I'm gonna put the back and put in some support. So the strips are 3 inches wide, and then they're the width of the cabinet. And I drew pocket holes, not drew, like screwed. I made pocket holes. I'm so tired. I made pocket holes so I can attach it. So this is where I'm going to drill through so I can mount the cabinet in the wall. So one of them is supposed to go here, like this, and the other one is supposed to go right where it is. Oops. Right there. Isn't it gorgeous? Look at it. So done. So just gotta put a clear coat, but that would be a different day because I am beat today. I'm done. I wonder if I could fit in this cabinet. Ooh, it is heavy. I like it. Oh Jesus, heavy. I can fit. If you're wondering why I'm working under a tent today, is because it might rain and I don't want to stop working if it starts raining. And two, it's just really hot and sunny in Florida, you know? So this kind of helps. It's actually pretty nice. I did this wrong. Put the glue on the wrong side. Oops. I was so confident too. It is happening. It started raining. So I had to change the camera at a different angle so it wouldn't get wet. So I'm gonna try to show you this as best as I can. The rain's still getting it. Look at that. Okay. Something I want to show you is these cabinets. Well, this cabinet came out pretty square, which actually pretty proud of myself. The last wall cabinet I made was almost squared, but cut me some slack. It's the first time I make cabinets. I think they came out really good, so this is gonna work. This is going well so far. Yummy. The last thing left to do was to put this cabinet on the wall, and while I stood there thinking about how I was going to install this, my cat had other plans.
Kitty, what are you doing? Get out from back there. What? You got yourself back there. Oops, sorry. Oh, hi. Now he's going to investigate.
Because this wall cabinet turned out to be pretty heavy, I asked my girlfriend if she would help me install it.
Oh, God.
I heard that.
No!
Oh, I heard that.
I broke my ass.
I still need you.
All right. Let's do this.
Okay, help me lift it up.
Okay. This is a very small space.
I know. Actually,
Okay.
it's okay. I did this by myself earlier.
Okay.
It's possible.
Okay.
Ouch. All right. Okay. There you go. All right. So the lip.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it?
Yes.
Got it done.
Yep. There. I finally have somewhere to put detergent. We've had it on the floor the whole time because we didn't have anywhere to put it.
I'm still nowhere near done with this project. The next step is to make the doors for these cabinets and to finish building the broom closet. I, however, run into some weather issues while making these doors. To get the size of the doors, I did a bunch of math using my drawing as a visual, which was pretty helpful. I don't go into the details of this because this project can look different for everyone, but the shaker doors are made out of 5 pieces, 2 rails, 2 stiles, and a center panel. So this is gonna be a 2-tone laundry, and the cabinets that I'm making now are gonna be painted, which is why I'm using poplar wood. I was going to use plywood because I have plenty of waste that could have worked to make the doors, but then I have to edge band all the way around it, and it's a little tedious and time consuming. I decided to just spend a little bit more and get the right type of wood and just save me a lot of work, because these are the perfect width. So all I have to do is like cut them to size and put them together to make the door. I started cutting the wood to size, but then I noticed the weather was rapidly changing. I work a full-time job, so my days off are the only time I have to get this done. So I try to push through this whether it rains or shine. So I put up the tent and now I can continue working. So I have all the pieces cut, and I cut them slightly larger than what they have to be because the way I ensure that they are all the same exact size. I stack them all on top of each other. I then clamp them, making sure that they all flush over here. 3/4. Whee! Perfect. After I got done cutting, I made pocket holes on the top and bottom part of the frame. To make the doors, you want to have them laid out. Make sure the ugly side, if there's an ugly side, goes to the back. So this is where the pocket screws are going to be, also in the back of the door. So see, side looks pretty, ugly, pretty, ugly. I then use wood glue for extra strength before I attach the frame with pocket screws. Some of the wood had imperfections, so I repaired it using wood filler. To cover the pocket holes, I like using these plugs that already come sized for pocket holes. I use wood glue so they can stay in place, and I use a mallet to get them as flush as possible. So I ran out of the pocket holes, plug thingies, and I looked in my scrap wood pile and I found a wooden dowel that happens to be the perfect size to plug the rest of the pocket holes. This is a 3/8 wooden dowel, also works for this. So I was doing this, figured out a little trick. It was probably always a thing, but I just figured it out. So if you cut this the right size, so this is the side that I just cut off, it looks just like a pocket hole plug. So if you cut it the right size, you can actually use that cut to plug the next hole. I did it too big. Yeah, so that's too big, but I can cut it. The last one I did happened to be like the right size. To make the pocket plug smooth and to prep the frame for painting, I sand it with 150 grit. I then did some last minute touch-up with a wood putty, and then I hand sanded the edges of the frame to get rid of the sharp edges. So now I'm going to use the router to make an edge here all the way around the back so I can put a panel. I'm going to use 1/4 inch plywood so I can have a flush panel here in the back. And for the bit, I'm using that one right there. So 3/16 rabbiting with bearing. The 3/16 that I have, I think is too small. It doesn't leave enough room to nail the panel, so I have to be very careful, but it's the only one I have at the moment. So you see how with the router this is curved over here? It's easier when you cut the plywood panel, since I'm going to do a straight cut if it's square like that. So to square it off, I use a wood chisel to draw the lines where they meet, and then that right there is what I got to cut off. If you don't want to do that, you can just cut off the plywood and just cut the corners around it like it is here. That's what I did on the last set of doors that I did for the tall cabinet. But then I noticed that it was, there's barely any space to catch there, so it was hard to nail in place. So that's why I'm just gonna make it square. I cut 1/4 inch plywood to place on the back of the frame. And then to secure it, I use wood glue and nails. I used wood putty on the back of the door to cover the gap between the panel and the frame, and then I sanded it to make it smooth. I'm now getting ready to do the hinges, and to drill for the hinges I'm using a Craig jig, which is pretty amazing because all you have to do is line it up and drill the hole. I then lined up the doors to drill for the hinges inside the cabinet, and I basically aligned the doors exactly where they go. Then I marked and followed the instructions that came with the hinges. They came out so good, and I'm pretty happy with them. It wasn't hard to make them at all, and I didn't run into any major complications. So let's get to painting. So today's not a good day to paint. It is really humid. It might be raining on and off, but I want to get this done, so I'm just gonna go for it and hope for the best. I'm in good company, right, Misty? Looks good. I'm all done, but I'm not really happy with how they look. Now it's just a primer, so they should be okay. I can sand them down. They're very rough, and I think part of it I didn't clean them well because I sanded these a lot, so they look like it has a lot of dust caked into the primer. I did wipe them, but I guess I didn't do a good enough job. But once I sand them, they should be smooth, and then I can paint them. But I'm worried about the primer being uneven because I was fighting with the sprayer the entire time. I also found another problem right here. It like bubbled up, and it looks like, I thought it was just a primer, but I think that is from the plywood veneer. Like it just bubbled up in there. So I might have to like cut that out and fill it up with wood putty. So I'm hand sanding it with 220, and that seems to make it as smooth as I want it. I'm doing hand sanding because if I do the sanding with the power tool, it's just gonna take the primer off, and there's no point on that. So another thing I wanted to show you is, see that little gap there? You don't really see it anywhere else. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a little bit of caulking, and maybe I'll do it all the way around, because that wouldn't bother me if it was even all the way around. But because it's just in that section, it bothers me. So I'm just gonna caulk it. Before I could move forward, I needed to do the repairs on all the imperfections. This was actually a little bit frustrating for me because the paint was one of the last things I had to do, and I didn't think I would have to do multiple repairs. And if I only knew that it was about to get worse. I have picked the worst day to do painting. It is raining. It's going to be raining all day. I have a cold, so if I sound different, I am a little under the weather. That was the thunder. But I'm in Florida. I can't really escape the rain, so... And I'm determined to finish this because I have been working on these cabinets for way too long now. I'm embarrassed to say how long. But I'm gonna move forward, and I'm gonna hope that the doors don't get ruined out here. I kind of feel safe under my tent though. I think it'll be okay. It's just very humid, so it'll probably take longer for the paint to dry. Compressor's not working. I think it's because it's plugged in over there and it started raining and it tripped. And now I'm stuck over here. It was supposed to be light rain. At least that's what the weather app said. If I would have known it would have been like this, I probably would have not started, but it said light rain throughout the day. That's why I took the risk. Now I'm regretting my decisions, because I'm stuck under a tent. I'm sure you already knew this, but this was a very bad idea. I knew I should not be out here painting or trying to paint when it's gonna rain, but I thought it was just gonna be sprinkles throughout the day. But I think I'm gonna give up for today. This was a terrible idea. It's like that coat of paint never happened. I was able to wipe it right off. Okay, I should try again tomorrow, if it's not raining. So after the first coat, the doors were a little rough, so I did a quick light sand with 400 grit, and I did that by hand. It was a wet sand, and because the 400 grit makes it really smooth, and I like how it feels once you sand it with 400 grit. And then I did a second coat, but it looks like it's going to need a third coat because the paint still doesn't look even. I think it's the sprayer. Like, I don't think I'm using the right sprayer. I'm still kind of learning. I've used the sprayer before and it's worked good, but this time for this project it has not. I have a bigger sprayer, but honestly I've been lazy about using it because it just takes forever to clean it, and I probably should have used it from the beginning. I think after the third coat this should be ready to go. I made the wall cabinet and we put it in, I don't know if you noticed that there's a gap here. So I actually made fillers out of plywood and painted them to match. So all it is a piece of wood that just goes flush with this piece here, and it just makes it look like one piece from wall to wall. What? Am I making too much noise? I'm sorry. I secured the fillet pieces with screws and I put them behind the hinges so that they wouldn't be noticeable. I then used caulking to cover any remaining gaps and to give it that nice built-in look. And now with the wall cabinets done and the doors all finished, I can now start working on the broom closet. Over the last month, I built the top cabinet over the broom closet and the door, but this cabinet goes above my head, so I had to figure out a way to install it. So I made this jig in my flip-flops to put the cabinet on top and secure it in place. The spot with this goes is so small and awkward that it would have been hard for two people to hold this in place, so the jig ended up being a big help. And after the cabinet was in place, I secured it with screws. Alright, so now it's time for me to finish this bottom part of the broom cabinet. Ideally, you have like a tall cabinet in here, but I don't want to do that. I'm just going to build a frame and a door, and when you open it, you can actually just squeeze in here if you're small like me. But mostly because I wanted to have access to the washer and dryer connections and all that, because if something happened, I didn't want to move this. This is really heavy both together, so I didn't want to have to move it completely out. So I can just squeeze in here and shut off the water if I have to, and I think that's the best idea. And it also kind of makes me feel like there's a little hidden room, you know? Like I can hide in here if I really needed to. Kind of cool. Kind of cozy. Not really. So I'm making the frame 2.5 inches wide. That way I have room to mount the hinges for the door. This thing must have moved when I was cutting it because it started at 2.5 inches and then it just migrated to like almost 2 3/4. So I'm actually gonna fix that with the table saw and make sure that is all straight. Sorry, oh shit, sorry Tony. I'm such a disaster. Okay. So I have the frame all cut and this is how it's gonna go in. But first I have to attach it with pocket screws. And then I'm gonna do edge banding all the way around so that way, you know, the rough edges are not showing. And I'm gonna paint it to match the white cabinet. Normally when I'm putting something together with pocket screws, I also like to use wood glue for extra support, but I completely forgot and I didn't realize it until I was watching this footage. It's getting dark outside, so I'll do the edge banding and the painting tomorrow. But I'm gonna test fit this frame to make sure that it fits. Oh yeah. Whew. Now I can barely fit in here. It fits. You've probably noticed that I do most of my work outside, and one day I hope to have a big workshop, but starting out is hard because all of that costs money, and I'm not complaining about what I have because for a beginner, I have a lot of tools already, and that is because over the years, I've bought tools as I need them, and some of them have been gifts from my family. My first tool was a $20 corded drill, and I had to drag an extension cord with me everywhere because the plug would never reach the outlet. So it's okay to start little by little. The nice thing about working outside is that the cleanup is minimal, and I don't have to worry about the dust because it just scatters into the air and it becomes part of nature again. The downside is that I have to set up every day in the mornings, and I can't really leave things out overnight because I'm in Florida and it's really humid, it rains a lot, so I have to put everything away every night. But that's okay. I'm very grateful that I have the space where I can make things when I feel creative or when I decide that building cabinets for my laundry is a good idea. So it's edge banding time, and I feel like I've shown a lot of edge banding on the last few videos, so I'm just gonna quickly go through this in case you're not familiar with edge banding. Basically, edge banding is what covers the edge of the plywood so it doesn't look unfinished like this. And you apply it with an iron, it's self-adhesive with the heat of the iron, and then you use a little trimmer to clean off the edges. Then you sand the edges to blend them in and make them smooth. But for some reason, every time I work with edge banding, I mess up an area or two. The edge trimmer is really sharp, so sometimes it catches on the veneer and it takes it off. And last time I fixed that with a stain marker, but I can't find it. I have no idea where I put it. So I'm attempting to fix it with a Sharpie, but I'm afraid that it looks worse. I'm not sure. Maybe it doesn't. I think it looks better than the orangey color. So the reason I went with a Sharpie and a darker color is because that is a natural stain, or it's part of the grain on the wood. Like, I didn't do that. See, and there's some more over there. So I'm kind of trying to mimic that. So I know it probably looks like it contrasts a lot with the wood. So that's why I decided to do the darker color. I got this primed, and now it's drying. Well, it's dry because I touched it, but I have to go get the wood for the doors so I can start building the doors because I didn't buy enough last time. I thought I did, but I only have like one piece, which is not enough to make the door. So I'll be right back. the shot starts. Delete all of that before that. Okay, so I'm all done with the first coat, and while that dries, I'm gonna go ahead and start building the frame of the door because I only have about a couple hours before it gets dark, and I would really like to get the door done today, so I'm gonna get into it. To make the doors, I use poplar wood and cut it to size. I then attached it together with wood glue and pocket screws. No, you gotta be kidding me. It's cracked. I think I pushed the screw a little too far and it cracked that piece. I gotta take it off before the glue dries. See it right there? I already took the screws off, but it's pretty bad, so. All right, so I found this piece. I'm not too excited about it because it has a knot in the middle and I have to repair it. That's why I didn't use it to begin with. I've gotten a new piece that was a little bit better, but I guess I'm gonna have to stick with this because otherwise I have to go back to the store, get a new one, and I'm not doing all that. Not today. No cracks. I think we're good. I routed the back of the frame to make room for the panel that covers the middle part. The router doesn't leave square corners, so I use a chisel to make the corner square so that the panel fits right in. I then cut the panel to size. It almost fit. I use wood glue and nails to secure the panel in place. I then use a Craig jig to drill for the hinges. After I was done, I sanded the whole door with 150 grit to prep it for priming. I put the hinges in the door, then I mounted the door to the frame to test it out before I permanently install it inside. So I thought it would be a good idea to shrink wrap the plywood piece that I'm using as a work table because I'm gonna paint the door and I don't want the table to get painted. But then I started second guessing my idea. After all that chaos, I applied the primer to the door using a pneumatic sprayer.
Misty, come here. Misty, on this side. Come on. Come here. Come here. Come here.
I sanded the primer with 220 grit after it dried to make it smooth and get it ready for painting. The last set of doors I painted with a smaller sprayer, but it gave me a lot of issues, and I think it was because the paint was thick, so I decided to use my other paint sprayer, which worked out really well. I was a bit scared at first because the sprayer shoots out a lot of paint, so the coats were really thick, and I was nervous about how the paint was going to dry, but it actually came out really nice. I also finished the inside of the frame with polyurethane so it would match the rest of the cabinets on the inside. Alright, I finally get to put this together and I'm so excited because this is one of the main parts of the laundry and it's gonna look so good when it's done, so I can't wait. I think I should have made this a little bit bigger. I don't know why I find this funny. The reason why I made it small is because the other side, it's very important that the other side fits 2 little boxes at the bottom. So when I did all the measurements, like this just ended up being this small. So if you're ever building something like this for yourself, you can build it whatever size you want. Especially if you're doing like an access through, just make sure you build it big enough for you. Otherwise, you'll end up like this. Sideways, I'm good though. I can reach everything in here. Looking pretty good, other than, you know, it's a little tight in here. So the plan right now is to mount this. I'm going to secure it to the panel here and to the wall, kind of. But you see, like, there's a little gap over here. That's going to have a filler. So I'm going to cut a strip that's going to go between the wall and this. So it's going to look all built in. I'm going to trim the baseboard. And then after that, I can mount the doors. And I think I'll be done with this part of the project. We'll see. Broom closet, done. I sometimes can't believe how good this is looking. Like, this all started with a drawing on paper. And I'm not gonna lie, there was times that I wasn't sure that I was gonna finish this because this has taken me months. I work full time and not having a lot of experience doing this, it's just taken me forever. I've made mistakes along the way, but I learned a lot by just doing it. Now it's almost done. Like, look at it, it's almost done. The last couple things I have to do now are making the floating drawers that go here with the top, and then I gotta cover that ugly vent pipe and block this somehow because I don't want the cats getting there, you know, back there. So, and after that, I'm done. It'll look just like my drawing. I'm so excited. So today I'm making the floating drawers that are going on the right side of the washer and dryer. And I took measurements of the space and then I drew up what I wanted to make today. Basically, I'm making a box where the drawers are gonna go in. And because I'm a visual person, I like to draw it. And then I break down each piece of the box with the dimensions. And that gives me my cut list of what I need to cut to be able to put it together. I hope that makes sense. To make the box, I used 3/4 inch birch plywood and I cut everything to size following the cut list I made. So for the back of the box, I'm actually using MDF because I don't have any scrap pieces that are long enough to make the back. And it's just the back piece is not really gonna be visible, it's just to cover it. So I think MDF is gonna work well. So I have everything cut and now I'm gonna do a quick sand with 220. I like sanding before I assemble it because it's harder to sand once everything's together, try to get the corners and all of that. So I'm actually just gonna sand before I put it all together. Now I'm ready to assemble the cabinet box, and to do that, I like using these 90-degree clamps which hold everything in place while I put it together. Except for that piece. I then added wood glue for extra strength and slid it in place. I just drew this line so I know where to drill for the screws. I'm gonna put screws to secure the sides here. And the reason I draw a line is because you wanna make sure that the screw doesn't go too far up or too far down. So I made a line like right in the middle of this, which is about 3/8. That tells me where I can drill for the holes. For the top of the cabinet box, I'm just using 2 strips to keep it square, but since it's going to have a countertop, I didn't use a full piece of plywood. Out of my entire laundry so far, making these floating drawers was my favorite part. I don't know why, but making this kind of makes me feel like I have stepped it up on my woodworking skills, and I have more confidence to build better and more challenging things. But I don't want to jinx it. What do you think? It's a box. But I'm actually pretty excited. It's huge. Like, I mean, I knew it would be big, but after I built it, it's I don't know, it just looks huge. So the last thing I'm gonna do today is I'm gonna do the edge banding. So I'm gonna finish all the edges so it doesn't look raw like that. It's gonna be painted white to match the rest of the cabinet, but I still wanna finish it so that way it has a smooth finish. Today I'm making the drawers that go inside of the box that I made the other day. And I was doing some measuring on all of the plywood that I have left, including my work table that I've been using, and I haven't been wanting to cut out of it because it's been so useful. Even if I use this entire thing, it won't be enough. I have to go get another whole sheet of plywood. Like, I can't believe that out of the million pieces of scrap wood that I have, it's not gonna be enough. Like, they're just not big enough. I have a lot of pieces, but they're not big enough to make the drawer. So, I'll be back. That's for a different project. So many nice people today. You got it? Yep. And we're just gonna put it on the sawhorses.
Oh, shit.
Whew. Look at that nice wood. Okay, I'm back, and now I'm gonna cut all the pieces to make the drawers that are going in here. There's going to be 2 drawers, and just like I did with the box, I did a little drawing and I made the cut list of all the pieces that I need to cut. But all the calculations, I did them before I had this put together, and I did change it a little bit just to make sure that it would fit. So I have to adjust this. I'm actually gonna measure and actually make this according to the measurements of the box. But before I do that, I wanna test fit this because I wanna super make sure that it's gonna fit before I go too far and ruin everything basically. So I'll be back. What is going on? No, that's not gonna work. Tony, I have a problem.
What is it?
It doesn't fit.
You did it again?
It doesn't fit. It's the trim though. It has to be because I test fitted the width of the bottom. I actually did test it before I put it together. If you watch my other videos in this series, you might realize that I've made a lot of mistakes, and I could easily just cut those out of the videos and make myself look like I know what I'm doing, but I don't really want to do that because when I first started DIYing, I would watch a video on how to do something and it always seemed so simple because most videos made it look easy. And when I went to do the project and realized that it was actually harder than what it looks like, I would get frustrated and sometimes I wanted to give up. Anyways, I guess what I'm trying to say is that sometimes a project isn't a straight line from A to B, but if you just keep going, you can get it done. And even if you get stuck, there's usually a way around it.
It fit! It fit! Thank God.
But there's one thing I do have to keep in consideration. I made this box to go from wall to wall. By the way, it's not gonna be that high. I'm just holding it with these right now. But the drawers, they're gonna be 1/8 of an inch from the edge, which means I think it might hit the trim if I open the drawer. So I might have to like extend this side right here and just modify the size of the drawer that I was gonna make. I'm glad I caught this early because otherwise that would have been a problem if I went ahead and made the drawer. So I'm glad I test fitted everything before I kept going. So I just cut this piece to go right here. So it's gonna be flush over here and the drawer is gonna go from here all the way to the end, and that will give it enough room for it to open without hitting the trim. After I got done attaching these pieces, I took the measurements to start making the drawers. This is the jig that I picked up at the store, and it attaches to your circular saw and it acts as a guide to make precise rip cuts parallel to the edge of the plywood, making it easy to make repeated cuts.
That thing works pretty good.
Sanding time.
So I'm almost ready to assemble the box, but I have to prep it to put the bottom on it, in it. And most times on a drawer box, people use 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch for the bottom, but I don't have enough of neither one of those. Like all I have is 3/4 inch, and this drawer box is so big that I just don't have enough material. So the whole thing's gonna be made out of 3/4 inch. My plan is to secure it with pocket screws here, and then I'm going to make a dado, do a dado, how do you say it? I'm gonna use the table saw to do a dado all around the bottom here so that the bottom piece fits flush with the bottom. Just bear with me. I'm gonna explain it as I do it, so if it doesn't make sense now, sorry. So what I was trying to say is pretend this is the side piece of the drawer and this is the bottom. I'm making a dado with the table saw here, and the bottom is just gonna slide in and sit there. And that's gonna be the case all the way around.
So the goal is to use the table saw to cut the dado, but the blade isn't wide enough, so I will have to do multiple passes. And I'm leaving 1/4 inch space at the bottom of the drawer, and the first 2 cuts I'm going to make at the beginning and the end of the dado, and then I'm gonna cut everything in between. The table saw left the surface a little bit rough, so I used a chisel to smooth it out as much as I could.
So now I'm gonna cut the bottom of the drawer. So, where's my tape measure? And to do that, I wanted to have it together just so I could get the final measurements of the drawer. So I just measure the inside over here, which is 27.25, and then I add the depth of the dado, which is also 1/4 inch on each side. So that should be 27.75.
To attach the drawers together, I'll be using pocket screws and wood glue. To make the pocket holes, I'm using the Craig Jig 720 Pro.
What do you want, Misty? You want to keep playing? Bless you.
I forgot to hit record when I was putting the pocket screws on this side, but they're there, I promise.
You guys want to say hello to my neighbor? Look at this cutie. Look at this cutie. Oh, hi to you too. I'm sorry, are you jealous? Because I was giving her attention? Good girl. Okay, so I just have one more drawer box to put together and then I'm done for tonight. It's about to get dark, so I'll mount the drawer boxes another day, but I'm gonna put together the second box and then I'm done. It's freaking cold today. The last night didn't go well. I never put the second drawer together like I said I would because I was fighting with the first drawer. I realized I made it a little too big. When I went to test fit it, it was like really, excuse me. So I took it apart and just like shave it off a little bit. So I just spent the rest of the evening fighting with that and it got dark. So I just never got to the second drawer. I'm up early this morning and hopefully I can get this done.
I consider the first drawer I made my learning experience. While I was able to put it together and finish it, and I think that it looks really good, I made a few mistakes. When I got done putting it together and I knew for sure it was the right size, I decided to secure it with nails. But I eyeballed the distance of the bottom panel, and the nails ended up sticking up through the bottom. My second drawer though went a lot smoother. After I got the drawers all done, I was ready to install them. I got these drawer slides off of Amazon, which are soft close. I used 1/4 inch plywood as a spacer so that the drawer wouldn't rub against the bottom.
I put the first couple screws while the drawer was inside, but then I found it easier to do the rest with the drawer outside of the box using the same 1/4-inch plywood spacer. The installation of these is pretty straightforward, but this being my first time, as usual, I ran into problems. Okay, I think it works. I'm using 3/4-inch plywood as a spacer for the second drawer to even it out, but if you're doing a project like this, the spacer size can be different depending on the cabinet size and the size of your drawers. Okay, I think we're good. So now that everything works, I'm gonna be banding the top of the drawer because it's visible when you open it. I want it to look all finished, so I'm gonna edge band that. And I'm gonna do the drawer front, also edge band all the way around it. And this is gonna be painted white to match the rest of the cabinets. And then this is going to be finished with polyurethane. I'm getting ready to do the second coat of polyurethane, and the instructions say to sand it in between with 220 grit, but I found that when I use 400 grit, I do like a light wet sand with 400, and it makes it really smooth. Like, I really like the finish that it leaves when I sand it with 400 grit, so I'm gonna do that instead. Okay, cut. Before I paint the drawer fronts, I want to put them on. just so I can get the spacing correctly and it's just easy to install them. But I have to space them out evenly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure, you see the space here? That space needs to be divided by 3, 1, 2, 3. So I have to have the same amount of spacing in between the bottom, the middle of the drawer fronts, and the top. And the drawing, I calculated it to be an 1/8 of an inch reveal, not counting like that extra board that I had to do earlier. I'm gonna figure out a way to space this out and like hold it in place so I can screw the drawer front to the drawer. Okay.
A while ago, I saw in a video that you can use playing cards to space out the drawers, and I always wanted to try that trick.
So I figured out that what I need is about 10 cards high. It's about 10 cards high, so I divided all these stacks into 10 cards each. And now I'm gonna stack the drawer front. There. And then this one. That should be pretty even. Yep, we're good. One more to go. It's getting dark. I hope I can get it done before it gets completely dark in here. I did that completely wrong. Let's try again. I wonder if I can just...
I couldn't clamp the top drawer like I did the bottom because I didn't have enough space for the clamp.
I can't see. So what I did here is I screwed this one in place while I was holding it instead of clamping it, just because it seemed a little bit easier that way for this top drawer. So I'm just gonna drill the other 2 holes. And then I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna hold it in place with the cards as a spacer and drill the screw through, and that should have the same result. Like, it should be in place, it should be even. Let's hope. Ow. Why? Nope. So I noticed that it was slightly off right there. So now I gotta adjust it and fix it. All right, so I'm doing the same thing, but this time I'm actually clamping it to the top here so it doesn't like shift or move, because I was just holding it with my hand last time. I feel like I'm almost done now. Almost there. There was times that I felt like I was never going to finish this project. But now all I have to do is paint the drawer fronts. I also have this little built-in, not little, but this hidden cabinet behind the door that has to be painted because now it looks weird because it's a different color.
and I have to mount the drawers, and I have to cover this somehow, but it has to be accessible because there's an outlet here, they're plug-in for the dryer. Like I can't just cover that permanently, so somehow I have to make it accessible. Then I'm gonna build the countertop for the floating drawers and some finishing work. So the trim at the top, the handles. I got the handles for this, let me show you. Look at them. Aren't they so pretty? Look, they're gorgeous. I love them. Anyways, I'm excited about the little things, but I'm almost there. I'm almost there. Even though I'm almost done, I still have quite a bit to go. So for the next part of the project, I'm going to be finishing the top trim, doing some painting. I also have to build 2 secret access doors, which is pretty cool. And I have to install the drawers I just built, and I have to build a countertop for it. And then some final touches. Where's my tape measure? Aha. So every time I get towards the end of a project, it's kind of an odd part to be because there's so many like little things to do. I kind of get overwhelmed because I don't know what to start. So I made a list of all the things that I have to do, and I think I'm gonna start with the trim that goes up here. So I want the cabinets to reach all the way to the ceiling, so I have to measure and cut it to size. And I think that's probably the most efficient because I still have pieces to paint, and the trim also has to be painted. So if I cut it now, I can just paint everything together. I took measurements for the trim so I could cut it to size. I then cut the trim out of birch plywood, which is what I made the cabinets and the doors out of so it would match. Hi.
Hi.
Can I help you?
No.
After I got done cutting, I test fitted all the pieces. Oh, I cut it too short. You gotta be kidding me. Ah, no. The way I plan to mount the top trim, the bottom is going to be visible, so I edge banded the bottom edges. And while I was working on that, a friend came to visit.
Yo!
I didn't want it to get hurt, and by that I mean I didn't want to get freaked out if it got too close to me, so I decided to move my friend.
Where we going? My last place had a view.
I'm cutting the top trim at a 45-degree angle because I want the joints to be mitered. And then I use CA glue and activator to glue them together. If you never used CA glue before, I think it's pretty handy to have around for a quick glue up like this. You basically put the glue on and the spray activates it, and it dries right away when you put them together. After putting it together, I tested the trim and then realized that I hated it. On the design, the trim was supposed to stick out a little bit at the top, but when I saw it in person, the trim looked too bulky for me, so I decided to cut it shorter and make it almost flush with the cabinet.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna cut this so it doesn't look like it looked like yesterday. I think I got it. And as I tried to finish the trim, the weather was rapidly changing. And I got it done just in time, but I had to bribe Tony to help me put everything away. So I have to somehow mount this to the cabinet, and I think I'm gonna nail it in, but this isn't
like thick enough for me to like nail it to the cabinet. So I'm adding a cleat all the way around. So I cut these pieces and I'm gonna nail them. It's gonna give me enough of a space to be able to go like under the cabinet and nail it in place just so it doesn't move. And I think that's gonna work. I hope. Also, I made the little piece of wood here thick enough so the nails wouldn't go through the other side, because I want this side to be like clean looking. Come on. Here, stay, 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 stay. Okay, that should work. Sanding time. So now I'm gonna go ahead and stain this and put it aside to dry and finish making the rest of the trim.
What I'm working on right now is making an access panel that is going under the drawers so that I have access to the vent and the outlet for the dryer.
Ouch. Well, part of it came out. Okay.
What are you doing?
Just making a frame for the bottom part.
Is that gonna go like under the drawers or?
Yes, but it's not really gonna support the drawer. So the frame is so I can put like a panel with the magnets, and it's just gonna cover this back area so like none of the cats get back here, but it's gonna be removable. So yes, it's going under the drawers, but not really as support.
I'm still not 100% sure what you're doing.
Me neither.
After I had the rough cut of the frame, I then started to prep for painting. And from this point of the project, I started to go back and forth between projects, sometimes working on them at the same time. I had to take advantage of when it was a good day to paint because it rains so much here. Oh, and these doors, by the way, are from a hidden cabinet that is behind the door of the laundry, and since everything else in the laundry is now a different color, mostly white, I'm gonna paint it so it matches the rest of the cabinets.
I guess when you leave oil-based paint sitting for a while, all the oil comes to the top. Look at this. Ooh. That's more what it should look like.
I'm using a different primer because I ran out of bin primer, so instead I decided to use oil-based primer that I already have because these doors are laminated and almost nothing sticks to laminate. Now I'm not sure if oil-based primer is going to stick to it, but since these doors are behind the laundry when no one sees them and they barely get used, I'm willing to test them, and if they get messed up, I'm not really worried about it. I can always make new doors to match the rest of the laundry, but for now, I'm fine with just matching the color. I've also been using a sprayer to paint the doors, which gives it a nice smooth finish, but I don't have enough paint to run through the sprayer. I have less than half a gallon and my sprayer will suck that up before I'm done painting, so I decided to use a brush and a smooth roller to paint the drawer fronts and these doors. I also primed and painted the frame of the drawer box, and while that dried, I applied wipe-on polyurethane to the top trim.
bestie. You're such a good girl. Again? Yeah? Okay. Up. Up.
Ugh. Come on. Of course I ran out of battery.
So while the primer was drying, I went back to working on the panel that's going under the drawers, and I'm making the panel out of 3/4 inch plywood.
I'm gonna talk. Ugh. Okay. So the other day, while I was drying, I cut this frame and just dry fitted in here. So the plan is to put the drawers on top here. They're gonna be floating drawers, but I need this to be completely covered but accessible. So that's why I'm building a brain. That's why I'm building a frame to put a panel here and cover it, and look, it will look like it's the end of the wall. Like, it just won't look like there's anything behind it. But the panel needs to be removable, and I want it to be removable like easily. Like, I don't want to screw it in and have to unscrew it if it has to be removed. So my first idea is to do magnets. So I'm gonna put the panel and it's just gonna stick there with magnets. I'm not sure that they're gonna work, so I'm gonna like test it. I just got done cutting the panel, so I'm gonna go ahead and dry fit it. I think that's gonna work.
Now that the primer was dry, I sanded it with 220 grit to make it smooth before painting it. While the paint was drying, I started prepping the panel for painting. I then attempted to drill holes to recess the magnets, but the blade I was using was dull and it didn't come out good, and I should have just glued them straight to the wood and it would have been fine.
So one of the downsides of the caterpillars appearing out of nowhere is that sometimes you don't see them. So I have to like look at everything that I touch to make sure that I don't touch one, because there's one like right under there. Let me show you. Hello, you.
Hi!
You're not supposed to be on there.
I think I am.
No, you're not. So I'm going to gently move you. Okay, maybe that was not that gently, but I tried. Oh. Oh, okay. 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 Let's make this work, but first.
think that's gonna work. I finished painting the panel the same color of the walls. Never noticed I had a caterpillar on me. I did the last coat of paint on the doors, and then the weather caught up to me. I'm gonna wait a few minutes before I put the rest of it away.
I think it's raining.
You think? Okay. Oh, wait. Let me get this out of here because otherwise I will never find it. That's because it's nailed right there. Oh, there you go. Whew. I hope that's in the right place. We'll see. Why doesn't it fit? Like, why? Get out! Come on. Get out. So what just happened here is that I cut the trim exactly the size that it needed to be, but because the ceiling trim was in the way, it wouldn't fit. And then it got stuck between the ceiling and the cabinet, so I had a hard time removing it. Ouch! Oh, it's tilted though. Why is it tilted? Oh, good luck getting that out of there now. Why? That's not too bad. Okay, one more to go. Whole trim came out. That's a good thing because I learned from the first one that I did. Trim needs to come out. There. Well, that one went smoothly. Today, I'm gonna go ahead and install the drawers, but what I'm working on is building a jig to kind of like mount them on while I screw it in place because they're floating. So I'm building a jig to hold them in place. Oops, sorry about that. So I'm getting some clamps. I'm hoping this jig works. I'm pretty much using just scrap wood and making like a little frame together, and that should be enough to hold it in place. So I have the jig all done. And if you notice, I put a little vent here. I don't know if it's necessary, but once this is all done, it's gonna be pretty closed off to the back. And I just wanted to add this for airflow, just in case. Again, I don't know if it's needed or necessary, but for my peace of mind, I just added a little vent there, just in case it gets too warm or this breaks or comes off or something and the heat needs to come out of somewhere. I don't know, makes me feel better. The drawers are gonna go on here and they're gonna be secured to each side, like the wall and the cabinet here. While I'm putting them on, I need something to hold it in place. So that's what the jig was for. So I built this temporary frame for that. So it's gonna sit on top of this and I secure it in place and then poof, I'm done.
That worked. Nice. Very nice. Oops. I used shims to level the drawer box as needed, and then I secured it with screws. I did it. I did it. I don't think this thing's going anywhere. It's in there. Okay, now let's get the drawers in. Yep, that works. So, I just got done recording and explaining how I was gonna do the countertop. And I realized that the mic was dead because it was plugged into the camera. Sorry about all the noise. But because it was plugged into the camera, everything was muted. So while I start to put my tools away, I would just go over what I did. It is a mess in here. I decided to make the countertop out of birch plywood so that it matches the tall cabinet. And I'm gonna stain it the same color, so I think that's gonna look really nice. I also decided to do it out of plywood because I wanted a project that was sort of easy-ish, because everything in this laundry has been like harder and it has taken way longer than I thought. So I wanted to do like a simple project for the countertop. I took the work table that I've been using, which is pretty much a piece of plywood, and I cut it down to size. I prepped it, sanded it, and sorry, excuse me. And I even had my future father-in-law come to help me. He saw that I was trying to like rig this guy to do a straight line cut because I didn't have a guy that was like big enough to cut it. So he came over and asked me what I was doing. He's like, "Oh, I have a guide you can use." I'm like, "You do? Oh, that's so nice." So he came and like let me borrow that guide over there. Anyway, so the hard part about this countertop is that I want the front to be mitered, and I've never done that before. So I'm gonna try to do that and hope that it comes out okay. So now that you're cut up, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this at a 45-degree angle. I have the countertop piece is cut like at a larger size, and then I'm gonna do the angle cuts that I want to do the miter, and then I'm gonna cut it down to the exact size that it needs to be. For that, I'm gonna go ahead and, you know, the angle, the blade, whatever. Also, I don't know what I did with my safety glasses, so I found these, and it's a little overkill, but it's what I have for now. Oh, hi. You scared me. Okay, so I have a problem. I don't know how to fit the countertop. I know, right? Story of my life. It doesn't fit. Again. But I knew this time it was gonna happen because this wall is like super wavy. So if I cut it to like the shortest measurements, I'm gonna have some big gaps. If I cut it to the largest measurements, it just doesn't fit. I tried shaving parts of the countertop that are going against the wall, so basically trying to make the countertop wavy. Oh shit, I don't want to scratch the washer and dryer. I would just cry. Like I can't just slide it in, it just doesn't fit. Like it just ends up like that. I have tried to like slam this down with a hammer. I've tried everything. It's not working out. So I think what I'm gonna do, actually my father-in-law gave me this advice, is to go ahead and cut it as short as I need it for it to fit, and then build the wall with some quick drying mud. Okay, so I'm setting up to cut this to its final size, and hopefully it will fit. By the way, these roller things, amazing if you're working by yourself. And that right there was kickback. Come on, just fit. It's still pretty tight. I want to end up damaging the cabinets. I'm already like damaging the wall so badly. When I cut a piece of wood, like when I measure it like exactly, and maybe cut a little larger because I'm always afraid to cut it too much, because if I cut it too much then it's gone. I rather shave it little by little until I get the right size. And there's a wasp right there that is trying to kill me. I am very afraid of them and it just doesn't go away. I think it's like looking to build a nest. Let's try this again. It fits. It fits. Yeah. I'm actually gonna raise this by like an inch. So I want the top to be like an inch thick. So I cut some strips to put underneath, and the front that I'm gonna miter is also an inch thick. So I'm gonna go ahead and put all that together, test fit it one more time, and then I can like stain it, finish it, make it look pretty. And that is a big old gap on the wall. Let me show you. And just like almost fit a finger in there. To make the countertop 1 inch thick, the plywood is 3/4 of an inch, so I cut these strips over here. The miter part of it is an inch thick, so when I put this here with the strips here at the bottom and I put it on top, is going to sit at a 1 inch strip. So the whole thing doesn't have to be an inch thick. You can just put strips to raise it up as high as you need it. Right, Misty? So I have a confession to make. Misty's not my dog. Right, Misty? You don't live here. She's my future mother-in-law's dog, which also happens to be our neighbor. So every time I'm working out here and they let Misty out, she loves to come and hang out with me. So that's why you see Misty all the time in the videos. But yeah, she's not my dog. I don't have a dog. Where'd you go? Misty? Misty? She left me. Good girl. I just knew it was gonna follow me. Like one of these days, they're falling out of everywhere. Like I see them like everywhere and I don't know where the hell they're falling from. I wonder how long that thing has been on there. Alright, so I think my plan is to do wood glue here and here, and then I'm gonna hold it together with painter's tape. So I'm just gonna run like a lot of painter's tape all throughout, just kind of holding it in place. Since this is not like heavy at all, it's very light, that should be enough to hold it in place. Basically what I'm doing with the tape is I kind of secure it at the bottom here, and then when I bring it up here, I'm kind of pulling it and making sure that the miter is like right where it's supposed to be. So I'm basically like just pulling the miter just tight together with the tape. But I need to do it like all over because I can tell like here it looks pretty tight, but then here is like, you know, just a little tiny bit separated. So I think if I do the tape all the way, it'll all stay in place like it's supposed to. I was really careful when sanding this area because if you sand veneer too much, it'll actually start, like you can sand the veneer off and then it looks ugly. So I'm just gonna hand sand this miter here to kind of smoother it, and that should be fine. That should look good. So I haven't sanded much of it off yet. Before the second coat of polyurethane, I wet sanded with 320 grit and then 400 grit to make it really, really smooth. just did 2 coats of polyurethane on the countertop and sanded in between. And I'm gonna do 2 more coats of the wipe on polyurethane, but I realized that I was out. I think it like dried up or something. So I'm just gonna go ahead and install the countertop because I wanna start working on that drywall that I need to build up a little bit so that this looks flush to the wall. And then I'll be up to final touches. A little bit more. Oops, too much. Oh, there. Oh, no. God damn it. The heat phone came out. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Oh, I'm gonna have to fix that. Why can nothing go smoothly? Alright, I think I'm just gonna squeeze glue in there. I'm just gonna leave it.
I use sealant caulking to hold the countertop down.
For the top of the drawers, I'm doing the same thing that I did at the bottom, which is make a removable panel. I did the same thing. I built the frame, and for the panel, I'm actually using MDF because it has a smooth surface. And I want to do wallpaper just to, you know, just give it a little something something. That was surprisingly easy.
I use CA glue to attach the magnets just like I did with the bottom panel. And at this point, the project had gone on for so long that I thought I might actually lose my mind. But I'm really almost done now, so let's talk about budget. You all know that I got quoted $6,000 for the cabinet. That didn't even include installation. And I spent a total of $1,000 in cabinet materials. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't have all the tools needed to make this job happen, so I also spent about $800 in tools to make this happen. So that will be a total of $1,854 that I spent to build the cabinet. That's 70% less than the cost of the cabinets, and I get to keep all the tools. Now, if you're curious about how much I spent on the total project, because there were other expenses aside from the cabinets. I did the floors, I redid the walls, I had to replace a door, and I bought a new washer and dryer. That was another $2,700, so that brings my project to $4,600. Still less than the cabinets alone. Now, I'm not saying that the amount of savings in this project is worth it for everyone. I spent every day off I had for many months working on this, but I learned so much. I learned new skills, I have new tools, and I got to share this experience with you. And I plan to continue to do DIY projects, so for me, this was very much worth it. Running out of battery. This baby is done. Ooh, that's still drying. She's done. All done. And I'm so proud of myself. Like I really like the cool things, like the removable panel that I can access behind there. I spent so much time thinking about it and never could come up with the right idea until like the very end when I was doing it. I'm like, I have to figure something out. I also like the under panel here that you can get in there and access the dryer cord and the vent. And I like that the broom closet over here has access to the washer and dryer in the back. So if anything happens and I need to get there real quick, I can do it. I can shut off the valves, I can unplug everything, like, you know, for anything quick. Now, is it easily accessible to work on if you need to? No, but neither is a faucet under a sink, and plumbers still do it. So it's possible, I can get to it, and I'm happy with it. Thank you for joining me in this journey. It was a wild ride. But I plan to continue to do more projects around the house, outside. I have a lot coming. So stay tuned and I'm gonna roll the final shots and I will see you in the next project.